Hello, thank you for coming to my video. If you would like to help my channel grow, please like and subscribe, and please click on this little bell icon so you never miss a future video. Hey guys, welcome back. With all the Mortal Kombat 11 hype happening right now, we're going to continue our Mortal Kombat vs. Let's Play series, moving on to Mortal Kombat 3. I'll post links to the previous videos of Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 down in the description below. If you're wondering why I'm talking quiet, it's because I don't want to wake anyone up in the house right now, because I'm currently recording this at 1 o'clock in the morning. So, before we get started, an update on the giveaway we're doing. We are still doing the 4,000 subscriber giveaway for an Amazon gift card for $25. But in order for that drawing to take place, we need more subscribers. So, please share down in the description. I'm gonna have the link down below. If we hit 4,000 subscribers before New Year's Eve at the stroke of midnight 2018, we're going to have that drawing. So we got until 2019 to hit that mark. So still got some weeks to go, but we are getting up there. So go ahead and start the game right now. So I got the Super Nintendo footage recorded earlier on the left side there, and I got the sound coming from the left speaker, and I'm playing the PlayStation 1 on the right with the sound going through the right speaker here. And we're just going to crank this down to easy just a little bit, because I'm not as good at Mortal Kombat 3 as I am with 1 and 2. And configure the controls just a little bit. So of course, when this came out, you had the Super Nintendo and the Genesis version and the PlayStation version. It was never really attached to the Genesis version when it came out, nor did I know anyone who did. We already activated the smoke code. So for both these games, in order to get access to smoke, you have to activate a code, and we already did that earlier when we started playing. But you know, the console wars with Mortal Kombat was definitely at its peak, but by the time Mortal Kombat 3 came out, the console wars between the Super Nintendo and the Genesis had kind of died down a little bit, because Sega was moving on to their Sega Saturn and whatnot. So by the time Mortal Kombat 3 came out, a lot of people were interested in upgrading to the PlayStation to get the upgraded experience. I didn't have the money to get a PlayStation at the time. One of my friends did. When I played Mortal Kombat 3 on the PlayStation, it was, and also Tekken to a degree, it was our first experience in the 90s of having a 100% arcade experience at home. You know, having an arcade port ported to your console that felt exactly like the arcade. And to us, that was amazing. I mean, the Super Nintendo version is still a really, really good port, and it plays really good compared to its arcade counterpart, but the limitations to the Super Nintendo were definitely noticeable. And you can hear that in the music and the sound effects, and just some lacking content. I mean, there's the cartridge space, of course. So a lot of like the cutscenes, the ending cutscenes, even though they were present in Mortal Kombat 2 on the Super Nintendo, they were cut out on Mortal Kombat 3, so it just kind of had like that versus character pose for the ending, which, you know, even those took a lot of cartridge space. But with the exception of the CD limitation in the PlayStation, I mean, it was a perfect port. Again, with the CD-based media, you had to deal with load times, and it was something that a lot of people would, willing to deal with at the time. Oop, I messed up that fatality. Something that a lot of people were willing to deal with at the time in order to get that perfect arcade experience. But a lot of the drawbacks is, you'll see right here, like you got like a 2 or 3 second loading before the match starts. So, and most loading times now with current consoles have worked around that, or people just gotten used to it, or it's not that big of a deal. But going from Super Nintendo to Genesis, it was much more noticeable at the time. But one of the things that made it really noticeable is if you like playing the character Shang Tsung, because Shang Tsung would morph into other characters. So anytime you would do that, there would be a 1 or 2 second loading lag, because the game would have to load the information for that character in order to play as him. And then after about 30 seconds or however long the morph lasted, it would freeze up again, so it would load and go back to Shang Tsung's normal character. Where if you're playing on the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, you wouldn't have that, because it would just load the information almost instantaneously right off the cartridge. So that was one of the advantages of playing on the Super Nintendo version over the PlayStation. But the Super Nintendo version of Mortal Kombat 3, when it came out, that was actually one of the versions one of the Mortal Kombat games I didn't buy right away. In fact, I don't even think I owned it until like way later, like recently. Because when the game came out, one of my best friends had the game on Super Nintendo. My dad and my stepmom, which owned a convenience store, and they rented movies and video games out of it. They had it in stock, so I got to play it all the time. So there wasn't much reason for me to buy the game, even though I actually owned quite a bit of games personally that they also rented out. But between that and my friend and the comic book store that I hung out at in junior high and high school, which had an arcade, they also had Mortal Kombat 3 arcade machine, which I actually own that same exact machine now. But yeah, I had access to playing Mortal Kombat 3 even without owning the game. So when I chose to buy the game, I actually ended up picking up Killer Instinct instead, because I didn't have access to playing Killer Instinct a lot, and I got to playing that a little bit, and I got hooked on that at the time, even though I wasn't too good at it. So it was, and then I still had Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 on Super Nintendo, so I still had my Mortal Kombat fix. So I love this Fatality. Oh, I messed up, didn't have enough time. So gameplay on the Super Nintendo version, it's almost identical. It definitely has the gameplay down. Slightly sluggish, but I don't know if it's like a frame of lag built in the code or something like that, like Mortal Kombat 2 had. Not a lot of people know about that, but for the most part, it feels almost identical and close enough to getting an arcade experience on the Super Nintendo version. Genesis version, even though I didn't actually play the Genesis version until like recently, and I'm actually surprised how good it is considering the limitations of that console. But I didn't have that childhood attachment to the Genesis version of Mortal Kombat 3, so there's really no reason to include it in this Let's Play, because I only played it a little bit anyway. And even though the Genesis version is really good, Super Nintendo version... Oops, I messed that move up. I was trying to do the Pit Fatality. Super Nintendo version is still way better. And also, I find it a lot harder to play Mortal Kombat 3 in the Genesis controller because I gotta have the shoulder buttons for the run and block. Mortal Kombat 2, I can do it just fine. Now, my first experience playing this was on a friend's PlayStation. It was actually the same time I got to see Resident Evil for the first time. Ooh. Sonya's ducking all those moves. And it was pretty much my first exposure to the PlayStation console, which, blew me away how good the console was. Yeah, like I said earlier, it was, basically just a perfect arcade experience. I still enjoy playing it, even though I have the Mortal Kombat 3 arcade stand-up and all the re-releases and whatnot. In fact, just about all the re-releases are actually Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, which we'll get into in the next video. But the only time they re-released Mortal Kombat 3 without the Ultimate expansion was on the Midway Arcade Treasures when it came out for PlayStation and or PlayStation 2 and Xbox, because those included, also PSP, included Mortal Kombat 2 and Mortal Kombat 3, but not Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. So now we're gonna fight Motaro. Of course, instead of having like the four-armed Goro type boss, you had the centaur kind of boss, with a horse bottom. It was different. It was pretty cool. Pretty easy boss if you kind of know the patterns. Pretty much want to jump kick and try and catch him when he's jumping, and then run up and do your combo. I didn't pull it off too well there. The problem with his horse like his 4 legs, is it's been very, very difficult to put him in recent Mortal Kombat games ever since they went to 3D style graphics. I'm hoping they'll find a way to put him in Mortal Kombat 11 if they choose to do that. Because how do you motion capture a horse? Maybe that's what they should do. Maybe they just motion capture a horse. Come on, jump. Oops. And we'll get into the characters a little bit here once I get to this character selection screen. Oh, which will be now, actually. For anyone that's watching this live, we are recording a YouTube Let's Play. And for anyone that's watching this later, I'm actually live streaming this on Twitch as I record this. So, Mortal Kombat 3, first Mortal Kombat without Scorpion or Sub-Zero or any of the ninjas. It's got Sub-Zero, but he's not dressed up in his ninja outfit. And the reason because of that is because the actor that played that character in the previous 2 Mortal Kombats, Daniel Pazina, did a promotion for a rival fighting game, so they didn't pick him up for Mortal Kombat 3. Oh, I'm doing good on Kintaro here. So instead of having his characters in the game, his most famous one being Johnny Cage, but he also did Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Reptile. Lost my train of thought here. But he also did the Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Reptile. So when he did the promotion for the rival game, they pretty much cut his content from the sequel. So they didn't put Johnny Cage in. They killed off Johnny Cage in the story, and kept the ninjas out of it. They put Sub-Zero in, but they had a different actor play him, which is why he's not in the ninja outfit. And they kept out Scorpion and Reptile. And to make up for that, they added the Cyborg ninjas, which, this game came out in the mid-90s. A lot of that sci-fi type stuff was coming out, and, grunge music, and, post-Terminator 2, and all that kind of stuff. So it was definitely a product of the times. So, and it worked. I mean, people were really excited for the content in it. Yeah, I was missing Scorpion. People really love Scorpion. Scorpion is one of the more popular characters. And also Raiden. But Raiden they cut out too, because the guy who played Raiden was his brother. But I don't know if they did that because of it, or it's just a coincidence that they left Raiden out for story reasons. They still have his character info in the game for Nightwolf's friendship. Never good at doing commentary and gameplay at the same time. That's okay. The pattern to fight Shao Kahn's a little more difficult than the PlayStation port. I don't know if it's something in the translation or... That's okay. We'll get him. Yeah, we got him. So yeah, they added the Cyborg ninjas, Sector and Cyrax, and then they have Smoke, who's a secret character. Which, Smoke was also a secret character. He wasn't playable, but he was a secret character in Mortal Kombat 2. He's basically just a copy of Scorpion, which is why he has the spear. So you still kind of had your Scorpion-type character in the game as Smoke. And you also had Cyrax, which... Cyrax was also kind of an homage to Scorpion. He was yellow. He was a yellow ninja. He didn't throw a spear, but he threw out a net that kind of had the same effect as throwing the spear. Kind of brought your opponent over to you. Just like that. There we go. We can get him in the pattern here with the net. Oops. Oops. Come on. I messed that up. And of course, they added the ninjas back in the Ultimate expansion. Which, you know, the guy that played the Unmasked Sub-Zero did all the capture work for that. And a lot of my friends and I, when we first discovered Mortal Kombat 3 and when we were first playing it, we were actually pretty good fans of the new characters that they added for the game. They seem to get over pretty well, at least that I saw. I don't know if a lot of people felt the same way. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Come on, there we go. See if we can save this. Oh, I think we got it. Oh, he chose to block that last one. And since we're playing as the ninjas, we'll play as a Sub-Zero real quick. Yeah, for whatever reason, a lot of the actors that did the Mortal Kombat 2 didn't return. Like, Liu Kang didn't return. Shang Tsung didn't return, so they had different actors play him. Kano, the guy who played Kano, he returned. The guy who played Jax, he returned. So we had a couple returning actors, so that was good. Kung Lao, the guy who played Kung Lao, he returned, even though Kung Lao is almost a different character in this game. Because his projectile is a little different. Oh, can I still uppercut him? Yeah, that's good. Oops, messed it up. I need to take apart my PlayStation 2 controller and clean it. Uh-oh. Oh, we got him. Of course, Toasty returned in Mortal Kombat 3. As far as I know, they just put it there just because they had it in the previous game. It doesn't serve any purpose like in Mortal Kombat 2, where you use the Toasty trick to fight Smoke. Oh! Can I get him? Yeah, there we go. So I'll kind of show the differences in the endings between the PlayStation version and the console or the Super Nintendo, and which also applies to the Genesis version of the game. Because of space limitations of the cartridge, even though it was later in the console's life and they can make bigger cartridges, it was still a factor. So a lot of these cutscenes that you see right here were cut out with just like their fighting pose, like their versus fighting poses instead. So the PlayStation version had a lot more of the content ported over from the arcade because of the CD media could store a lot of that information. But also the music tracks in the game were taken exactly from the arcade, which was easy to do because if you couldn't figure out how to get the PlayStation hardware to emulate that music exactly, all you had to do was put it on CD tracks at the time, which was actually common, and actually did that for this version of the game. Super Nintendo version, the music is still pretty close to the arcade, but of course the limitations of the hardware at the time, it doesn't sound exactly the same. Of course we'll wait for the ending to go through here. start another game. Oh, there we go. Let me skip through the credits. And who should we play this time? Let's play Sub-Zero again. Of course, Mortal Kombat 3 was the first Mortal Kombat to where you pick your tower and you're essentially picking your difficulty. Which in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, you would actually get rewards for beating the highest difficulty, but they didn't add that until Ultimate. Oops, trying to mess up the combo. Of course, Mortal Kombat 3 was the first Mortal Kombat to add a combo system. It was basically like a dial-a-combo type system where there was a button combination that each character would have, or variations of them, usually multiple versions. There'd be like a specific combo that had the most amount of hits, but there'd also be variations of that combo, or a couple different ones, like some that you can knock the character up in the air to do like a jump kick, and oops, didn't have enough time for the fatality, where you can like do an uppercut and jump up in the air and do like a flying attack or whatnot. So different variations, but for the most part it was just like a dial-a-combo, a dial-a-button combo system. But it was really popular at the time. It actually worked out pretty good. Doesn't age too well in my opinion compared to modern fighters, but it was still good. Game holds up pretty good. Doesn't hold up as well as Mortal Kombat 2 in my opinion. Especially like the art style and the like the character designs and stuff like that. It kind of has more of a low budget movie look to them compared to Mortal Kombat 2. Almost like they were trying too hard, you know, with like the spandex and whatnot. But it was still very popular at the time. Oops, I'm messing up on the combo. And of course, you know, Mortal Kombat 3 had the fatalities, and also had animalities, which were a rumored feature in Mortal Kombat 2, but it wasn't an actual feature in the game. It was just a rumor that started that gained a lot of traction, and then they eventually added it to Mortal Kombat 3. Where, you know, your character turns into an animal and, you know, performs a fatality, and it's called an animality. But in order to do an animality, you basically have to let your opponent win at least one round. So, you know, you have to do it on the third round, and then you have to perform a mercy when it said finish him to give your opponent a little bit of health and beat him again, and then it would let you do the animality. So... Which, you know, Liu Kang's animality was basically his dragon fatality from Mortal Kombat 2. But talking about the fatalities, of course, they made a return. Each character has 2 different fatalities. They added like the friendships and the babalities, which is, you know, kind of poking fun at the fatalities, the fatality system. But a lot of the fatalities in this game were a little more cartoonish. Some were still good. Like that one there wasn't too bad. Sector's fatality, where he does like a hydraulic press and like compresses him, and the, you know, blood squirts out. That's pretty good. But most of them were a little cartoonish. Overall, I actually think the fatalities in Mortal Kombat vs. DC overall are better than the ones in this game, just because this one is a little more cartoonish. But a lot of people don't really agree with me on that, but that's just how I feel. Of course, this game is still more mature because, you know, the fatalities are actual fatalities of, you know, bodies being blown up and whatnot. Cobol was a very popular character in the arcades when I first played this with friends. A lot of the new characters were pretty popular. You know, you see a lot of new characters in Mortal Kombat, with the exception of 10. 10 had some pretty good new characters, but like the ones on PlayStation 2 and Xbox, like Deadly Alliance, Deception, and whatnot, a lot of the new characters just kind of felt like they were shoehorned in, like they were just trying to think of ideas for new characters, and it just, to me, it didn't really work well. Maybe it did for some people, but for me, it's like a lot of the new characters were like, not all of them, some of them were pretty good, but most of them were just kind of, But a lot of the new characters in this one were pretty good. They're still kind of original. Oops. Oh, there we go. That's another thing I forgot to talk about is Sub-Zero, compared to Mortal Kombat 2, even though it's the same Sub-Zero in the story, actually has some different ice moves. You can do like an ice clone move. And I like this one. I wish it was in more Mortal Kombats where he throws ice up in the air. They added it back in a couple Mortal Kombats. Uh-oh. Sucker. Yeah, my favorite characters in Mortal Kombat were, I would always go back and forth between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. So because Scorpion wasn't in this game, I naturally gravitated towards Sub-Zero in this game. And even though he didn't do the ground freeze, you know, I still knew most of his moves right off the bat. And even though I didn't know the combos in the game, you know, I could still play Mortal Kombat 3, pick up and play it, and be decently good at it right away because I played Mortal Kombat 2 so much. And another thing they included in this game, which I haven't talked about yet, is the run button. They added a sixth button. So, you know, you basically hold down the run button, and you can just run towards your opponent, which you see me doing a lot here. Another thing they added is like the transition in stages right there. Of course, the Super Nintendo actually fades to black and has to reload the stages. I think the Genesis version doesn't have to do that. I don't remember. I could be wrong. Oops. Not doing too well. Come on. There we go. I actually liked, when this game came out, I liked how a lot of the backgrounds and stages, some people kind of considered it bland in like the magazines like Electronic Gaming Monthly and Critics and whatnot, but I actually liked how the backgrounds and the scenery were based off of actual locations like, you know, streets and subways and things like that. I thought that was kind of cool. One thing I really loved about Mortal Kombat when I first started playing it was its more realistic presentation, you know, with the digitized actors and whatnot. Come on, just need to get, there we go. Yeah, they can just motion capture a horse from Mortal Kombat 11 if they put Motaro in there. Shouldn't be too hard. You know, just put a motion capture suit on a horse, just tranquilize him, and wake up and be like, "What the hell is this on me?" and just film him walking around and. I don't know if that actually worked or not. So yeah, in terms of, you know, which version is the better version, Super Nintendo or PlayStation? And by the way, again, with the Genesis version, Super Nintendo version is better. That's, you know, just how it is. But in terms of Super Nintendo version or PlayStation, which version is better? I mean, Overall, the PlayStation version is better. I mean, that's almost no contest, with the exception of the loading time. But there were drawbacks to playing the PlayStation version. You know, the PlayStation version the PlayStation console had just come out, so it was a $300 system. And Sega Saturn did not get Mortal Kombat 3 because I think Sony signed a 32-bit console exclusive deal with Midway or Williams or whoever, which is why the Sega Saturn got Mortal Kombat 2, a re-release of that, instead of Mortal Kombat 3. But, you know, Super Nintendo and even the Genesis was around the $100 range at the time. So, you know, you basically cost like an extra $180 to play the PlayStation version. And a lot of people didn't have that where they already had a, you know, Super Nintendo. So, you know, it'd be like a $300 investment to play the PlayStation version. So, you know, Super Nintendo was, you know, a good option. It was, for them, the better option. For me, it was at the time. Oh, got the ending here again. Let's see if we can skip past that. But yeah, eventually I picked up a PlayStation. And the reason I chose a PlayStation over the Sega Saturn when I was in high school when I did is because of Mortal Kombat 3. You know, because Mortal Kombat 2 on the Sega Saturn, you know, I already had my fill of it. I already played enough of it. And you know, I still had it on Super Nintendo, and I was super happy with the Super Nintendo version. I actually liked the Super Nintendo version better than the 32X version at the time, which is still really good, which I talk about in one of my previous videos. So we'll play a little bit more here, then we'll wrap it up. So that's like one little pop-up variation of the combos that a lot of characters have. In Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, they actually added some more of those for some characters. I like Cobol. Cobol was a pretty popular character when the game came out, but I noticed when Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 came out, a lot of the players would hate Cobol because they considered him cheap by that time. There he goes, trying to do his full combo. Try to remember how to do his Fatality. Maybe I'll look it up real quick if I don't pull it off in this next match. But yeah, the loading times aren't too bad. I mean, it's only like an extra 3 or 4 seconds in between matches. I mean, unless you're a Shang Tsung fan, loading times aren't too bad. That was actually kind of disappointing for me, is I wasn't a fan of Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat 3. I thought they changed his character up way too much. I thought he looked kind of stupid. I didn't like his fireballs, you know, like the sound effects of the fireballs, the look of them. I like the look of them from Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. So to me, they kind of ruined the character, because I really loved playing as Shang Tsung when playing Mortal Kombat 2. He was probably my favorite character in that Mortal Kombat. You know, just because you can turn into anyone. So, you know, if you can learn a couple different characters and play as Shang Tsung, you know, your opponent doesn't really know what you're doing, because you can, you know, I'm going to look up that Fatality, because, you know, you can change into character and adjust your strategy at any point in time. Alright, let's look up that Fatality real quick, because I want to show it off. Run, block, 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 high kick. Oh, it's a third block. That's what it is. I'm only hitting 2 blocks. The graveyard stage. So this stage is actually cut from the Super Nintendo version, which you won't see it in the footage over there to the left. Oops. She was kind of a cool character. Kind of interesting. It was basically like, you know, the four-armed race of like Goro and Kintaro from, you know, the bosses of Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. But in Mortal Kombat 3, it was a female equivalent of it, and she was a playable character. There's a lot of people don't know this, but Kintaro in Mortal Kombat 2, when they were originally designing the character, was going to be a playable character. But then they adjusted the character to make him a forearm character. He was supposed to be like just like a tiger character, but they basically made him like a hybrid tiger forearm character. There we go. Oh my god, it's Barbra Streisand.
Fatality.
So you just saw there on the left when I beat the game with Sub-Zero, instead of showing like the cutscene at the end, it showed the, you know, like his little versus graphic. That was not me, that was the other guy. So yeah, I talked earlier about, you know, the Sega Saturn not getting a Mortal Kombat 3 when it came out. You know, because Sony scooped up the 32-bit Mortal Kombat 3 exclusive license. But when Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 came out, that went to the Sega Saturn. So in the next video, we're actually going to do a comparison of PlayStation Mortal Kombat 3 versus Saturn Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, and kind of tell the story of how I got hooked onto that game, which was the reason I bought the Sega Saturn. So I was hoping to do the pit fatality. So yeah, that's Mortal Kombat 3. PlayStation version, a near perfect arcade port. Super Nintendo version, a very faithful arcade port, given the limitations of the hardware at the time. Let me know what you think about Mortal Kombat 3 in comparison to the previous two Mortal Kombats. Again, subscriber giveaway. We got to reach 4,000 subscribers in order to do the giveaway, so please share this video, share the link. No purchase necessary. All you gotta do is subscribe, and that automatically makes you eligible for the $25 Amazon gift card drawing. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time where we're going to show PlayStation Mortal Kombat 3 versus Sega Saturn Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. See you guys later.